trainer and coach in mediation, a justice of the peace with a background in law and psychology. He is also a facilitator in conflict management, conflict resolution, and people development. Mr. Campbell is an engaging thought leader who has inspired and influenced hundreds of leaders across the Caribbean to grow beyond their perceived potential. His experience in people development includes performance management, transformational leadership, and engagement. Kevel is a director of Youth Empowerment Services, Yes Dot, an associate of the Dispute Resolution Foundation, Mark Your Mark Consultants, and an adjunct lecturer at the Justice Training Institute. Kevel is also a former general manager of Next Step Lifelong Educational Services, as well as working alongside various government ministries to include the Ministry of Justice, the Ministry of National Security, and the Ministry of Education. He is a vice president for the Jamaica Association of Mediators with responsibility for the Northeast Zone and a board member for the St. Mary Dispute Resolution Center. Kevel has over 25 years collective experience in working with youth and adults in organizations such as Children's First, Save the Children Fund, and the Dispute Resolution Foundation's Youth Department, government agencies, individuals, and private sector organizations in all 14 parishes. Mr. Burchell James. Burchell James is a financial and management consultant with over 40 years experience in the tourism and small business development sectors, who gained a wide and varied international experience in accounting and finance. He obtained training through the College of Arts, Science and Technology, CAST, now the University of Technology Jamaica, UTEC, Cornell University, International Trade Management Institute, and Ravens University, and has a Master's of Science degree in Tourism and Hospitality Management with a diploma in International Trade Development. An international trainer of mediators, he is a founding member and the president of the Jamaica Association of Mediators Limited. A registered farmer for more than 40 years, he has been involved in the cultivation of coconut, pimento, etc., while rearing chickens and small ruminants. He also serves as a mediator, trainer, and coach at the Dispute Resolution Foundation of Jamaica, a facilitator at the Restorative Justice, which is in the Ministry of Justice, an ambassador and trainer for National Integrity Action in Jamaica, and the Justice of the Peace. His community involvement includes JCI Ambassador, President, Jamaica Junior Chamber, President of the Junior Chamber, West Indies, Jamaica's delegation leader to the JCI Model United Nations Program, the Caribbean representative for Earth Summit, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, Justice of the Peace of the island of Jamaica, facilitator and chairman for the inaugural 6th Diaspora Regional Caucus in Jamaica. And he is also a Lieutenant Governor of the Optimist International. May I invite us here online and in the sanctuary to give a warm welcome to our guest presenters.
He goes first. Thank you very much, Brother Andre. And now I'm going to call on Mr. Kevin Campbell. He's going to start off with the presentation. And as you have sat there and heard all of those accolades about these gentlemen, he's only setting up. Okay. I have been told just now that the system is being set up for Mr. Kevin Campbell. So it's going to take a little time for us to move on from that area. That's it? Okay.
You can speak.
So so we could still move on. Mr. Burchell said that he will go on. All right, so instead of Mr. Campbell, we'll just move straight on with Mr. Burchell. James. Yeah, you want to come here? You can come. Or you want to? Okay, he said he's going to fill in until the official program is starting. All right, so perhaps he's going to give a pep talk.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, other members, distinguished members of this very important church, a church that has made so much impact in the community, and organizers of this program. It's really a pleasure for both of us to be here, and we thank you for the courtesies you have extended, and we hope that you will be patient as we set up our program. But I would like to start by thanking Andre for the very eloquent way in which he made the introduction. His very kind sentiments that were expressed and the way he represented well your church community. I would just like to say that for me it's a return in that Ebony is part of the church I grew up in, which is the Philippa Baptist Church. And I see to my far left my dear sister, a former active, and I use it that way, a former active Justice of the Peace. And so we are happy to be here with you this evening. And I think we are now ready to start our program. The program is designed to be interactive, and while we do not have a large number of persons here, we can also make it interactive with those online. So we ask that you do not hesitate to participate as we go through the program. Let us know if you are not able to follow the presentation, and we will stop and we make the necessary adjustment. And I will now invite my co-presenter to lead off. You always get your best batsman to go to the wicket when you have a test match. And so we are going to ensure that we get started with Mr. Campbell. But just a quick update as to the Jamaica Association of Mediators. I'd just like to indicate that Mr. Campbell is also one of those, along with myself, who have been training Justice of the Peace around the island, around the Caribbean, in mediation. And I also do facilitation in restorative justice because of the importance of this to our well-being and the harmonious relationship within our communities. And I'd like to commend Ebony Vale Baptist Church for taking on this initiative. It's one that the minister would like to see happen on a wider scale, and it's one as Justice of the Peace that we would like to get involved in and to reduce the tension, lower the pressure, lower the temperature in our community. And so we are always willing to do training for peer mediation in schools, conflict resolution among your school leaders, the prefects, the form leaders, and within the church, within the communities. So I now hand over to Mr. Campbell.
Thank you very much, my brother, colleague. Welcome, everyone. And whilst I say that, I must say to the Ebony family, thank you for having me. I will delay only but a second to say it's my pleasure to be here. And now I will jump right into the meat of the matter. And I hope you don't mind. It's Andre, yes? I thank you, sir. You delivered that intro very well. Yes. All right. So we know that the meat of the matter is treating with this business called conflict. Am I right? Yes. And so it's the reason why we're here today. We're going to clear up some misconceptions. We're going to drill down into what conflict really is. We're going to go beyond the everyday talk. Perhaps you're going to find that you start to question things that you thought you knew and was doing correctly. What you see, whenever it is that we are open and receptive, that's when new information will come your way. Sorry. Mike? All right, so while I get this other mic going, let's start. Let me cause you to do what I like to call priming the pump. In that, if you're gonna take something on, you need to be in the right mind, the right frame of mind, the right attitude. You need to be thinking in a certain way. Because as Einstein says, you can't fix a problem with the same mind that has created it. Make sense? You agree? Yes. You have to get into a mind. So perhaps it's a mind of resolution. Maybe it's a mind of feeling compassion. You have to get into that state. Another way I put it is that you have to get into the state in which you can deliver that which you are about. So as my good friend, I like to say because I use thoughts from him so often, Einstein, as he said all the way back in 1929, when a friend asked him to get some help with some issues he was having with his daughter. So Einstein wrote back to him and says this, and this is an excerpt from that letter that Einstein wrote. My colleague Virgil had indicated earlier, and so I will just bring that out again. We know you're there online, and so please indicate if there are any challenges seeing the material being presented, so we can ensure that you are partaking just as the audience would present in the flesh. So Einstein said in 1929, in his response to his friend about his daughter, he says, a human being is part of a whole called by us the universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires. Just pause there. And you can see how some of the issues that we suffer from start. It says, to our personal desires, restricting us. But our task must be to widen our circle of compassion, to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. If you can be in that state of mind as you start to treat with another human, if you can be in that state of mind when conflict comes your way, you will be in the right state of mind to treat with conflict effectively. So what is conflict? We've had many definitions over time. But here's one that I found to be quite easy to absorb. For good measure, I also, try to get more support to put the business of conflict, its definition, to have some words go in to your consciousness. So when you leave this space, you should be seeing conflict in a different way. But as we progress, you will see the way that I am leaning, and hopefully you'll be able to see conflict in that way. So let's move further and drill down deeper into conflict, the definition, what it is. When you talk about it, what comes to your mind? Yes? That's one of the things I want to happen this evening, is that you are able to talk about conflict differently. So, some of the things that comes to your mind with conflict. Here's now where I'm going to ask you. So those online, you can type it in the chat. And from the audience here, I'll ask you to respond. What are some of those thoughts that come to your mind when you think of conflict? When you think of figuring out what exactly is this thing called conflict, what are some of the thoughts that comes to your mind? Disagreement. Yes, thank you. Yes, keep it going. Disagreement. Other things that come to your mind? What conflict is? How would you define? What are the thoughts? When you think conflict, what comes to mind? Lack of communication. All right. And we could go on. So come from our online audience. Problems with others come to mind. All right. Thank you online. Thank you. All right. So let's see what your thoughts are stack up with what's already out there in the public space. Here are some of those thoughts that are already registered as what comes to mind with conflict. So we are seeing to clash, to disagree, sounds like some of the things you said, right? So what does that say about us as human beings? That we are closer than we are different, right? Yes. So then, these are some of those things. And as we look at something like incompatibility, sometimes it doesn't come to us too readily that because we're incompatible, why we keep having these conflicts. Oftentimes we don't pause to check that. Yes? Mental struggle. It's interesting that that one comes up, mental struggle, because it brings up a broader picture of mental wellness, doesn't it? Yes. So we look at types of conflicts. Because if we are to truly understand it, you must be able to identify it first. You can't hit a target that you can't see. Not true? You have to be able to clearly identify your target before you can take aim. So let's look at the different types of conflict. These subtopics, they start from the very broad, but you can bring these and narrow it right down to your personal relationships. And I will demonstrate that to you. So, goal conflict. When we look at what a goal conflict is, we're seeing that two or more parties intend to get to a point. Yes? And it is because they are not certain as to how to get to that goal why they end up now in conflict. Because oftentimes they all know they want to get to the same place, but guess what? It is the how that's causing the conflict. I think my way is the best way. No. I went to the better school. I think my way is the best way. And the third party, like my colleague Burchell, will jump and say, oh no, not at all. The school I attended reigned supreme, so my way is the better way. So we have there a goal conflict. Perhaps even deciding on the goal, you can see a conflict coming out there again. So there's a two-pronged coming out. Cognitive. Simply put, cognitive conflict is about thoughts and ideas. I have a different thought and idea from yours. Battle. We're going to go to war about it. So, cognitive, when you think cognitive, you know that we're talking about anything that has to do with the feelings and that sort of thing. The thoughts comes up in that area, the cognitive, the thinking. My idea, you rubbish it. And of course I'm upset because I thought that was a brilliant idea. Affect, conflict. Might sound a little strange, but when it's broken down, you understand very well what it's talking about. So the first one was about the thoughts. Then guess what now? This one is about the feelings. It's about how people feel, perhaps about something said about them, or how something was said to them. But it is the feeling. How do you feel when you were the recipient of the act or the thought? Behavioral. If you'll notice, you'll see there's a flow from the thought, because everything begins with a thought. You will see how it comes from the thought to the feeling, then ultimately to the behavior. So it's behavioral conflicts now, is how somebody acted. So I'm thinking something, Perhaps it's coming off of what you said. But you don't even know what's going on over here. All I know, I feel a way about what you said. And so I'm over here stewing now and getting hot under the collar. No sooner than all of that take me over, the thoughts and feelings now. Oh, they have a say now that they say, you're all up in your feelings? Yes. So I'm all up in my feelings. And I start to treat you matching up to how I'm feeling. So I'm no longer rosily saying hello to you and joking with you. Because even on my feelings, my behavior towards you has changed. And perhaps the reason why it has changed has nothing to do with nothing. Because guess what? Oftentimes, these things come about based on the meaning that you give to what has occurred. A man is not so much hurt by what has occurred, but by what he thinks has occurred. What meaning do you give to it? What story are you telling yourself? So I start to act like it's true and start to treat you, and we haven't even had a conversation on it yet. I don't even know that it's true. And before you know it, we have a full-blown conflict, escalating into many different levels. So there are levels. We look at style just now, types, levels. I told you we were going to be drilling down. So we're looking at different levels of conflict now. And when we look at the levels, where we recognize how the human being operates, it's a complex system, this gray matter we call our brain, you know. So if we're truly going to be able to handle conflict when it comes our way, if we're truly going to be able to manage conflict, we have to understand how the human being works. That is the first order of business. Because here's one of the things. There are people out there who feel that you can get resolutions to conflict without treating with people's emotions. But as my colleague will tell you, you have to fix how people feel first before you can start to see any progress in resolving a conflict. So we have their intrapersonal conflict. So if I should ever ask the question, can you have conflict with yourself? Then the answer should rightly be yes. Because anytime you're trying to decide between going to this place or that place, and you're not sure, and you're being dragged from both sides, you're in conflict with yourself. Anytime you can't make up your mind about which shoes to wear today, you're in conflict with yourself. But most time, maybe the time catch up on you, and you just grab one and go. That's how it got resolved, eh? But that's conflict. So we have conflict within ourselves. Then there is the interpersonal conflict. So as we look at the intra, the inter, and so on, we realize that, oh, so hold on, there's a difference. Because there's also the type of conflict that can happen as a result of being in groups. Whether that group can be or family, nuclear family, right? Or our relatives, or it could be the church family, or it could be at work. Conflict is there as well. So that's where we talk about the intrapersonal. And so another thing that may come when you look at this type of conflict, you start to get the term in your mind about intrapersonal relationship and skills. It comes in here. Intragroup. They may seem like they're the same thing, but look closely and you realize that, no man, I never realize that in dealing with conflict, I have to be so clear on how conflict really comes about between different groupings, internally, externally. That's what this is saying to you here. That's what your mechanism need to start to look as you go about resolving conflict. Truly understand how it starts from the first place, by me just thinking something or interpreting what you said wrong, and I start to act. Inter-organizational. Without dwelling on this point, you can clearly see how within an organization, different groups, different departments, and so on, can actually have a conflict. Especially if we want to start at the workplaces. We can see often HR is bombarded because of conflict in the workplace. As human beings, conflict will always be with us. So the question is, can we avoid it? Can we avoid conflict? Do you think we can avoid conflict, my lady? No. How about you? Do you think so? Mm-mm. My online friends, do you think we can avoid conflict? Because this is what we really need to treat with. So, I know I'm going to be hearing from my online friends in a second, so let me just push down a little further until then. I say that conflict is inevitable. Is there anybody agreeing with me? Conflict is inevitable. You agree, right? Yes. So if it is, I was going to say this. If it is, then we have to learn to live with it. But it sounds familiar to a phrase that is used very popular in the last few months at least. COVID. We have to learn to live with it. So we have to learn to live with conflict. And how we do that is that we have to manage conflict. But a lot of things you went and you got trained and you educate yourself how to deal with these things. Even before you get married, you go marriage counseling, you get coaching and all sorts. But where did you get conflict management and resolution training? Only when you purposely seek out to get that kind of training, right? Or you may be doing a course and they decide to have that as a part of the course. But do we really start to nurture our young ones in conflict management and resolution? I think it ought to be something we focus on. And one of the ways to do it is to look at something that is very much in topic here, in scope, and that is to start our young ones to develop their skills. Despite they don't come into full bloom until around about early 20s, in terms of emotional intelligence, but we can nurture it in the young ones at that tender age. If we can get them to start to appreciate how they're feeling, what they're feeling, why they're feeling it, they will start to treat each other better. So yes, conflict will always be with us. The challenge for us is not to eliminate conflict. It is for us to change. It's just for us to transform it. It's change how we deal with it. That's really the challenge. We hear conflict, and the things that conjures up inside of us are all the things you shared earlier. But we need to move away from that destructive, adversarial, hard-headed battling to a more problem-solving oriented mindset. Remember how we started with Einstein and how you should actually see yourself and human beings? Yes. So I couldn't go through without bringing out where the very Bible. So our Creator knew us from the start. Our Creator knows that we're going to. And so the word is there. James 1:19 and 20. So if you think there was nothing alluded to it, it's right there. How you should conduct yourself, what you should be aware of. Because if you let it go down the wrong road, you know it's not going to be pleasing to the Creator. So the information is laid down there from morning for us to be aware of and to guide us along the way. As we treat with conflict, we have to start by learning ourselves. If we don't know ourselves, then it's pointless. And you'll see why in a second. You have to know who you are. You have to know how you want to be seen by others. You have to be that. So you have to start with yourself. And when I say start with self, as you see the information there, it's about you changing how you see things before. It's about starting to say, well, you know, a lot of it might be culture, how I look at things. It might be how I learned it from my parents. That doesn't say it was right. But it's to become aware of who you truly are and how you want to be seen. Because you'll see in a minute where it says, we give others permission to treat us the way they do. Does that resonate with you? By our act or omission, we give others permission to treat us how they do. So, you might not do anything about how that person treats you. The fact that you did nothing, you're telling them that it's okay. You give people permission to treat you how they do. So as we look at what it is, there are some fundamentals that you need to take on, become aware of. And here's a base for you to start. Start by asking yourself certain key questions, like how do I treat myself? Because others are looking for direction from you, how you're treating yourself. And they're going to be treating you in that manner. Yes? So, start with that. How do I treat myself? What do I value? All of these is the starting point. Start with yourself. Because it's all good and well to know others. But guess what? The real crux of the matter is to know yourself. That is mastery. Know yourself. Some of the thing that causes conflict has to do with things like unmet needs, expectations, too much or too little, incompatibility, People can be quite unreasonable sometimes. And sometimes they're doing that, not knowing that they are. Believe it or not. Sometimes we say, oh, but they must know. There's no way that them couldn't know that. But I tell you this, I've seen where when we swear, say somebody must know. When I drilled down, they had no idea. None. That is why we have to yield sometime and be open and receptive and listen to hear what the other side has to say. So things like disagreement and feeling unloved, all of these here are other reasons we can find as to what will cause conflict. So as I said to you, we can take it from the very personal to the wider community, and we can see how conflict can start to rise. I'm not getting enough attention. Everything you say to me, I get angry. And we can go on with the list. Awareness leaders, that's where it's at. Becoming aware of the causes of conflict. That's the starting point. And when you're going to be managing conflict, here's where you go. One of the places that guides you well, because you know yourself, you know who you are, you know what you're about. Here's what you do. You want to have some ground rules set with you and the people in your group. And by group, as I said, I'm talking about whether it's your group is you and a spouse, the nuclear family, the community, your work, a church. When you can agree how you all want to be treated, you're on your way to lessen destructive conflict. Because conflict is still going to come. But you would have lessened by already agreeing how you want to be treated, you would have lessened destructive conflict. That's a starting point. Affirmation, reflection, making people feel that your presence when you are a listener. Sometimes all a human being wants is to be heard. Sometimes you finish and it sounds like you gave them the world, but all they got was your listening ear. They didn't even need any advice. They just wanted to be heard. And here, I'd want to share with you an idea, bring a little fun into it, but how you really should look to see how conflict just pop up in our everyday life. So I hope we'll be able to have this for our online audience as well. So they could, they are actually seen.
Have you ever been in an argument with somebody and it just continues to get worse? We assume most people have witnessed or have been part of this type of argument. This type of conflict is called escalatory spirals. According to our text, when two people treat each other with matching hostility, threats, and insults, it leads to more. This type of conflict can also be called destructive conflict. Now here are 3 video clips that show you examples of escalatory spirals.
Here you go. What's this? I went to the store and I asked them, what is the stupidest thing I can buy? And they gave me this toaster. Enjoy it.
You didn't have to do that.
You made it pretty clear that I did. In fact, I forewent replacing my cell phone to buy this.
Forewent?
It's a word.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
And you don't have to worry about me ruining that one because I will never use it.
Okay, stop being ridiculous.
You wanna know what's ridiculous? A glass toaster. What's next? A glass toilet so you can wave goodbye to the toast?
How about a glass front door so I can wave goodbye to you?
Oh, please! You would be lost without me.
I would be lost without you. Okay. The only thing that you've brought into my life is an oil-leaking Volvo, a musty smell in my guest room, and the word for lint.
It is the past tense of forego. Edify yourself, sir. Have you noticed that all the people in your life come and go, but I am the one constant. I am always here.
Maybe the reason they come and go is because you are always here.
When a woman dumps you, who picks up the pieces? Alan Harper.
And who picks up the check? Walden Schmidt.
Of course. Well,
They're called credit cards. Edify yourself, sir.
okay, if this is how you think, then I don't even know why I'm living here.
Well, I do, because it's free.
Okay, maybe I should go.
Maybe you should.
Fine. Okay.
Okay.
I am not bluffing.
Me neither.
This is me opening the door.
This is me watching.
This is me leaving forever.
This is me waving goodbye.
And this is me homeless.
As you can see in this clip, there was first an argument regarding a
Okay, we're gonna pause this here. So, but because a little technical challenge, I don't know if online is hearing. Is online hearing? No, okay. All right. So I'm gonna jump past this, so I'm gonna tell you what that was about. You would have recognized.
Yes, we are.
You would have recognized this comedy, right? Now, these bits were supposed to get you to see how easy it is to go from having a regular conversation into having a full-blown conflict. It's called escalatory conflict. You said something, I responded to you a certain way, and before you know it, we're in a full-blown and wonder, how did... Yes? We were fine a moment ago. How did we get here? So that's where that clip was supposed to have taken you. So let me pause here and welcome my... All right, so in a minute, right? Let me then just bring you through the why it's so important for you to be aware how easy it is for somebody say something on another and the response, and before you know it, it's gone through. If you can get this under your belt, emotional intelligence, you are well on your way to managing conflict well. And this is why. Emotional intelligence stands on 4 main pillars: self-awareness, self-management, empathy, and social skills. Now, this is really what it is. Self-awareness says, if I know what I'm feeling, why I am feeling this way, then I'll be able to treat with it. I'll be able to address it. Make sense? Yes, because I know what and why I'm feeling the way I do. So that means I won't allow interaction with others to become into destructive conflict, because I'm aware and I know can manage. So here's where it goes to the next one. If self-awareness is in operation, then you're able to manage your emotions. So I won't be snapping at you. I'm aware that I'm at a place emotionally. So guess what? I am mindful of my responses to you. self-awareness, self-management, so I can manage myself. I know now, okay, you know what? I feel this coming on. Just breathe. I'm going to do some diaphragmic breathing. Calm myself down. I'm going to take a walk. I'm saying, just hold a moment, just give me a second, and I just take a walk. Because I know what's going on inside me. And I don't want to ruin the relationship by saying the wrong thing. Empathy is the third pillar for emotional intelligence. Because empathy then says, if I can treat with myself like this, giving myself consideration, measuring, then hold on, the next human being go through the same thing too. So shouldn't I extend that consideration, that compassion that me give to self, to them as well? Remember, Einstein said at the beginning, we must broaden our circle of compassion to include everybody, not just your favorite people, everybody. So if you got that, self-awareness, self-management, empathy, then it makes the fourth pillar the one that wins the prize. Because that says social skills, better relationships are formed with longevity. Because people want to be treated with love and respect. And when you are there, living with emotional intelligence, you build better relationships. It says it. Persons who are emotionally intelligent, that is, those who exercise self-awareness, self-management, empathy, social skills, are better positioned. Better positioned to develop and display competencies in managing and resolving conflict, both in yourself and in your relationship with others. Here's one of the places that we go. We go into having some communication that don't meet the standard, and conflict come right there. Ineffective communication, and oftentimes it comes from what's going on inside us. When you are mindful, you consider others. You consider what they're feeling. Just like how you do it with yourself, with emotional intelligence, it's the same thing you do for you. So you're mindful of what they might be going through. So you don't just rush them and no. You are mindful. And as a result, you start to communicate with others. Mindfulness is a way of life. Mindfulness is like true mediators. They live that way. You don't flip on a switch when it's time. You are that. Your problem-solving skills are always on. Mindfulness is that. Always consider others. So mindful communication says, I care about what comes out of my mouth. I care about how it will impact you. Be mindful when you communicate. Oh, me back broad, me can't say anything me feel like say. No. I saw me stay, that's right. We know where that's going to lead us. We already know the end result for that. So why don't we do something different and have a different result? Try something different. Get a different result. Because when you can become mindful of what you're saying to people, because I'm your boss, I can speak to you how I want to speak with you. What are you building there? Yes? Be mindful. As you become mindful, you're going to notice one thing especially. You're going to notice how much people gravitate towards you. Yes. Respect is something that will permeate your atmosphere. Because you treat others that way, and guess what? They in turn reverence your presence. One of the key things, separate the people from the problem. Key in every conflict resolution mechanism there is separating the person from the problem is essential to allowing a process to resolution. If we don't, we're in trouble. You're fighting a battle that's not going to go anywhere. You must focus on the issues. Mindful communication suggests that, look, I'm going to love you anyway, but something happened that we must deal with. That is where I'm having a challenge. Let's focus on the issue. I'm not going to be attacking you. Let's focus on the issue. That is why you need a skilled practitioner. When parties get hot on the collar and start personal attack, that person calms it down and says, bring them back. Let's focus on the issues. Because it's easy to go into personal attack mode. Now, I love this one so much I walk around with it in my pocket. Forgiveness is the fragrance the violet sheds on the heel that crushed it. Forgiveness is the fragrance the violet sheds on the heel that crushed it. Just imagine that. You see the conflict? The heel that crushed the violet, and it didn't even bother to hold any grudge, any envy, any resentment. Just check out the fragrance that comes when you crush the violet. Regardless of what it happened, the violet still is going to give off that beautiful fragrance, even when it is crushed. Can you manage yourself like that? I say you can. I then have to take you to nonviolent communication, because this is where we have a lot of issues. Nonviolent communication is saying to you that when I talk to people, I need to know that words can be like bullets. I need to know that when I'm communicating, I am fully present. I am hearing you. I'm not just there waiting to say something as soon as you finish. I want to get in my 2 cents. That's how the saying go. But no, I really want to understand you. And perhaps even if you're speaking too fast, I want to say to you, could you just slow down a little, because what you're saying is important and I really want to hear. You're present in the moment. This is where nonviolent communication takes you. It is saying to you, you really start to learn about yourself, you start to learn about the others, and when you're on that road, let me tell you, violent relationship is a thing of the past. Once you come to a place where you have a conflict, which will always be there, guess what? Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. Let me to understand what's going on in your mind. I'm not quite there. Help me to understand that. Let's build a bridge that both of us can meet on this bridge and have a conversation. So either I come over or you come over on the bridge to have a conversation. This is where, when you're communicating non-violently, this is where it takes you. So, as it is, it's a changing of the way you think about things. And as the saying goes, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at changes. So let me say that again. Change the way you look at things, and the things you look at changes. Let me tell you how it's practical. If my lady over there, I always look at her as a little so-and-so. Everything about her, everything she does, everything that comes from her direction, I'm going to receive it as coming from a so-and-so. If the tree is poisonous, that means the fruit coming from it is what? Yeah. So, if that's how I think of my lady over there, she's a little so-and-so, then nothing that comes from her side can be good. But guess what? One day I got wise. I recognized that she isn't really the way I'm thinking of her. And I was open to wanting to get to know her. And I changed the way I saw her. And all of a sudden, only beautiful things come from that way. Yes, man. Yes, man. Somebody want to give us a Campbell a clap? Give us a Campbell a clap, man. Yeah, makes sense, leaders? Makes sense? Yes. Change the way you look at things. Oftentimes, it's just your story that you tell yourself about the person. We have a thing called top-down processing, where we all previous information, we take that information and make it become like it's so it go for real and nothing further from the truth. Spend a moment and get to know the person. Live in a no judgment zone. And if you can live in a no judgment zone, you're well on your way to reduce conflict. I'm saying to your leaders that conflict is at a place in our country now where if we can break it down like this and start to treat with it, we recognize we have no reason to have the kind of statistics that we're having. How you go from having a conversation with your spouse to stab up and shot and all of these things? How? You have to start from a place. Start to change the way you look at things so the things you look at can change. How am I doing there with time? Okay, 5? Okay. Another place is crucial conversations. Oftentimes, we run from the touchy subject them. Because guess what? We just don't know how to deal with it. We don't know how to have these conversations. And so we put it off, we put it off, we put it off, and we sweep it under the rug, sweep it under the rug. Before you know it, all we get is BAM! Because there was no vent for it to be coming out. I say, learn to have conversations. Learn for those crucial moments, those crucial conversations, learn to have them. Which is why I started out by saying, put ground rules in your relationships. There are rules that govern everything else. Why not your relationships? Agree on how we're going to treat with conflict when it comes to our door. We are emotional creatures, and we know at some point we're going to feel a way about something. They say we'll get upset at some point. It is how we're going to treat with it. So if it is in the setting of a couple, let us agree that when we see that both of us too hot under the collar, let's agree when we reach there, not if, but when we reach there, I tell you what, we're going to time out. And you agree on how long the timeout is going to be, because it can't be indefinite. When you do that, despite it will be challenging, because sometimes you're so hot under the collar and not even the rules they want to follow, but at least you have a starting point. Say to honey, say, hold on. Remember, we agreed that when we start to get to this place. But if you have nothing to refer to, then where you going to use? So start somewhere, Birchell. Not true? Start somewhere. Lay ground rules in your relationships, regardless of what type of relationship it is. Your groups, your personal relationships, set ground rules. You're better to be guided. You have a place to start. Remember, we give people permission to treat us the way they do. So why don't you set some rules? At the very least, if you're not spelling it out, and this is how I want to be treated and so on, these are my expectations and so on, this is how we're going to do this and so on, act like it. That's right, my lady. Act like it. Do the action. Oftentimes I'll ask people, what does my action say? What does my action say? Because I could always give you the deception of words. But what does my action say? So all this is telling you that you must start at a place that you're true to your own self. Start at the place that you are treating others as human beings. When you start there, then you're in that place where you can start to see and deliver, speaking your truth and expecting that others are going to do the same. And you're able to bring that through into great relationships. One of the ways that makes the process so beautiful is when parties in conflict can start to come to agreements. So whether you are in it yourself, just be mindful that if you can start from where we are already agree on something, then you're better off getting other agreements. So pick the low-hanging fruits. What are the points we already agree on? Yes? Isolate those. I tell you why it's so good. When people can see that, oh, we agree on that, it starts to change the chemistry in the brain. And so I feel good now. So let's continue along this line. Let's press along and get more agreements. Because your system is now telling us more of this. It is called the dose. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. Fire up in the brain, that cocktail, happy hormones. And so once you feel good, you want to press on. So, leaders, let me thank you. I have some recommendations for you. These are some books that can help you to develop your skills. Of course, there is always coming to a workshop to get it done. But I share with you some books. They're on the screen now. So these books are excellent to develop your skill in the areas we covered today. So it is Letting Everything Become Your Teacher, John Kabat-Zinn. The Art of Communicating, Thich Nhat Hanh. Right? And then we have Love and Respect by Dr. Emerson Eggerichs. And Nonviolent Communication. Nonviolent Communication by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. Let me thank you again. Those online, thanks for joining. And let me thank you here for being present and for your participation. Thank you.
of it, he's just going to know.
Bring up the mic. Or just use mine. Use it. I think it's on.
I think we would have. Yeah, I think we would have sat and we listened very, very carefully as to the topic, which was intensely delivered. You notice where it comes from, where it begins, and how it takes time and it goes into a phase. Then it takes time from that phase into another phase, and then it then goes up, and then it does climax. This is how we do presentations of these sorts, so that when people leave here, there must be one thing you'll be able to take away. And some of the things that I have written this afternoon, which is so critical to me, is that when the first thing is beware. You must beware of what is happening. 2, managing your conflict. Set rules and regulations. Agree on things that will affect you now and later. And the critical part of it is that non-communication. You hear, Mr. Kevin spoke about that bridge. That means you are over there, he's over there. And the only way that this conflict can be resolved is that we meet in the middle, and that's the middle of the bridge. I say nothing else. Thank you very much, Mr. Cavell, and you have done very well, and I hope perhaps we'll come back again and we'll finish totally, because I know you still have some things for us, right? So I now take this opportunity to call on Mr. Burchell to just wrap.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I note the diplomacy that you employed. You gave me strict direction to wrap up. But again, let us really commend my colleague, Kevin Campbell, in the foundation that he has laid. It appears that conflict is something you can deal with very quickly, but it really isn't. It requires more time than we have allocated today to get a deeper understanding in order to create the environment and an appreciation of the way in which we manage conflicts. And I say that from the point of view that both Kevin and myself have had to sit in situations where one word, wrongly spoken or misinterpreted, could mean death or injury. Can you imagine sitting in a city community with persons who they say are strapped, and you're trying to resolve a conflict, and you say one word that they misinterpret, and therefore see you not as a neutral person, but as a biased person? Your ability to leave the community is dependent on you keeping your cool, understanding everybody that is there, and managing the situation.
What do you mean by strap, sir?
Well equipped with their weapons. And we have had situations like that. And you have had to decide, you're either going to de-escalate and save lives, or you're going to leave it and let it escalate. And so there is a saying that I hear, I forget. I see, I remember. I do, I understand. So this evening you have heard and you have seen some of the things that are essential in understanding and managing conflict. But we would have wanted to go into the practical application of it. Given the constraint of time and not wanting to create a conflict between your expectations and our delivery, we're now going to invite your participation to demonstrate your understanding of what has just been said. So we're now going to take questions, comments, and suggestions. But first, I want to challenge you with a very simple escalating situation. Two sisters are at home with their mother, and the conflict arose over an orange. There's one orange in the house. one sister decides that she's going to have that orange. And the other sister immediately said, no, you cannot have that orange. And an argument develops. You are the mother. Give me your solution to that simple domestic problem. No, not yet. Let me hear from our online or in-house personnel. Let's get 2 or 3 suggested solutions. Anybody? Sorry, I didn't hear. Somebody said that. Cut it in 2? Yes. That may do. That's one solution. So we're going to cut the orange in 2. Hopefully it's big enough, but we cut it in 2. And will that solve the situation? We don't know. Any other solution? Any other possible solution? I'm sorry, I didn't hear. You would? As a mother, you'll keep the orange. That may create a bigger, a bigger conflict. You may then have the 2 daughters to deal with.
I would ask the daughter why the other daughter cannot have it.
And online?
Yes, online.
Online said, you have the rind, I have the juice, if you want.
All right. And I asked my colleague. Sorry, somebody else was speaking. Yeah.
If I was the mother, I would ask the daughter who said the sister couldn't have it, why? Because I would like to understand why she can't have it before I decide on a solution.
There goes the issue of understanding, communication. So we begin in a situation like that with first understanding why there's a conflict. What's the nature of it? And in this situation, the wise mother, who knew her children well, knew that one orange wasn't the issue, because it could have been cut in 2 and could have been shared. So it must have been deeper than that. And so she asked one daughter, why do you want the orange? She said, well, I feel like I want the orange juice. She asked the other one, why do you want it? She said, well, I have a project that I'm doing. I have to bake a cake tomorrow, and I want the rind to put in that cake. And by hearing from both, you realize that there was no real conflict. One wanted the juice, the other one wanted the rind. And so one had the rind, made the cake, and the other one had all the juice. But what was the factor that created the conflict? The matter of communication, the matter of understanding. And my colleague spoke to it. We tend to look at things from our individual perspective, and therefore it's what we want. And if anybody opposes that, it becomes a conflict. But then if we look beyond ourselves and we look to what others may want, and then conduct ourselves in a way that facilitates them as well as us, then there is no conflict. All right? So I raise that as we now invite your comments and your question. My colleague had a comment. Kevin? Okay, right. Yes, let's hear the comment now. We would really have liked to have done a practical demonstration of a conflict and see how persons manage the conflict. I tell you, it's good to say, well, I know what should be done. But you see, when you're in that hot seat and things are getting out of hand, you yourself have a challenge. So we will hopefully be able to come back and do that, but let us hear from you, your perspective of what you have heard and how you will apply that going forward. As Mr. Campbell said, it's a mindset. We have to change our mindset. in order to handle the situations around us. So, feedback. Someone monitoring the online, can they speak or they can only type in the chat? Can we facilitate them unmuting their mic and speaking? Okay, they can do both, yes. Yeah, could you open the mic and then allow whoever wishes to speak to speak? Yes, please. Could you use a mic for the benefit of everybody else?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, everyone.
For the first presenter.
Go ahead.
All right, sorry. My question is for the first presenter. You mentioned that we have to observe mindfulness in communication, but how can we do that, especially when the argument is so heated?
All right, thank you for that question. And it's a very, very important question. And so let me repeat the question. How can you remain mindful in an heated argument? So, simple. Don't allow yourself to get to that place. She says, be practical. So leaders.
Practice setting the ground rules.
Yes. Someone says it come back to setting the ground rules. But let me bring that ground rule even further for you. It is about setting ground rules for yourself. What's one of the ground rules there? Know yourself. Take the time out to know who you are. Know your triggers. Know the level at which you get to before you tip off balance. So, what you do as a practice, then it becomes automatic. I like to say implicit and explicit learning. Yes? Things you know without have to think about doing it, and things you have to really think before you do it. Implicit and explicit learning. So when you do things over and over again, because we are creatures of habit, we learn through repetition, it happens that you learn how to be this person over time. Whatever you practice, you stay with it and it becomes you. So you no longer. Here's one of the things you must then do to achieve that. If you understand that when you allow your emotions to take you on a ride, let's say this is the point of no return, you ought to know that you do not allow yourself to get to this point of no return. You check yourself. You are emotionally intelligent. That's why that is a starting place, being emotionally intelligent. So you know where you are emotionally at every point of the game. And once you get that, then you can feel that this thing is threatening to throw me off balance. You know what? Let me make a pause here. Let me take a breath. Because if you allow yourself to get to here, it's a point of no return. You are no longer in control. Your emotions have you now. So there's more to it. I could really teach you how to get to this, but it's time that we would have to spend together to get this done, because guess what? It's possible. Know yourself, know your biology. I can teach you how to prevent yourself from going to that place by just understanding your biology. Thanks again for that question.
Thanks very much, Kevel. There is something that, even as mediators, we have to be conscious of. There are some issues that we feel deeply about. And when those issues come before us, We have to decide whether we're going to handle it or not. And I give you an example. You may have to mediate in a situation, is a conflict that includes someone that may be a child molester. And as an individual, you feel strongly about that. You know that you're going to have a bias. Don't take it on. If you believe you can remain neutral in all of that, fine. But we must know the things that we cannot manage. And it comes back to the whole matter of emotional intelligence. And Madam Chair and the project manager, there is a program on emotional intelligence. And we can facilitate an introduction to it at no cost to your members. But the program helps us to identify who we are and how we manage emotions. And it's something I would recommend to everybody because it is valuable in every situation. And once you're able to do that, because it is said if you cannot manage yourself, then you can't manage others. If you cannot manage yourself in a situation, then you cannot manage others through that situation. And so that's where you begin. So thanks very much for that question and the response. Can we have other comments?
Mr. Presenter?
Yes, please, go right ahead.
Are you taking the online?
We're taking online.
Right, because my hand was up for a while. May I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Okay. Right, so I am a JP in Portland. I actually got the link 3 o'clock and joined. I was getting a little bit discouraged when I realized that the thing wasn't starting, so I wondered if I was at the wrong place. Nevertheless, I totally enjoyed and benefited from the session. I am not very sure that before today, I knew that I could have a conflict with myself. So I was very happy when that came out and to say that I have to look closer when I have these decisions and I'm not sure which direction to go. I could really be in a conflict with myself. I thoroughly enjoyed and benefited from the program, and as I said before, and wouldn't mind if I could benefit from other programs that you have. Like you just said that you have a free thing that you want to offer. I'm not a member of the St. Catherine nor of the church, but I wouldn't mind getting an opportunity to benefit from that. What do I do?
Thank you very much for those kind comments. You're in Portland, and Portland is part of the tri-parish that Mr. Campbell oversees as a mediator. It's St. Anne, St. Mary, and Portland. And so we will pass on to you the contact details for that office. But I'll also tell you that as a JP, you will be part of those persons selected for training as mediators. And so some of these skills will be passed on to you. Because more and more, the Justice of the Peace will be called upon to get more involved in the community in helping to resolve issues, also taking issues out of court, so that you reduce what goes to court while you're reducing what's in court. So you are with the right person. And thank you for your comments. Anybody else?
Yes, good evening to everyone. Good evening, Mr. Birchall.
Good evening and welcome. Go right ahead.
Yes, I must agree with the person who just spoke that the seminar was very interesting, very informative, and I really enjoyed it and learned a lot. But back to the scenario now with the orange lady and her 2 daughters. At first, I thought that I could resolve it by cutting the orange in 2. Somebody opened the mic and said that, right? But we learned from that was not the issue. You know, that was not really the problem for orange each. One wanted the rind, you said. One wanted the juice. So how would the mother resolve that? What would we do? What could we do? Because I don't want to leave the seminar not knowing how to solve that issue with my two daughters.
Thanks very much for the question.
You're welcome.
The issue, that story, as simple as it is, teaches us many things. It teaches us that we should not impose our solution on any situation. Because slicing the orange in two seems natural to us because we do not know what the either party wants from the situation. So it begins by not presuming that you know the answer. In every situation, and I think my colleague spoke about it, we must listen, actively listen, explore the thinking of the parties involved. In any conflict, parties have taken positions that are in opposition to each other. Find out why. So the mere fact that there is a conflict, the first thing to do is find out what is the cause. The solution itself will evolve. But if we do not find out and we jump to conclusion, what seems to be an adequate solution to us may not be to the parties. It begins with communication. It begins with not assuming anything. And as though it takes more time and you have the authority, because the mother could have made a decision. At the workplace, the manager can make a decision. But usually, when a conflict is explored, once you know the genesis of it, then you are able to deal with it effectively. And that's really what that simple story sought to emphasize. Need to hear from both parties and not have our own. Yes. I'm sorry, does that adequately help you to prepare for other conflict? It's applicable in any situation.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Welcome. Next question, yes, on the floor, in-house.
Okay, all right, evening. Question online. How do you deal with someone who never takes accountability for their actions and they always blame you for their actions towards you and the communication from them is usually vague? How do you deal with someone like that?
I give that to my colleague. It's not a Yorker, it's one of those hop. One of those that you can lick for 6, so I'll allow him to score.
Now, remember when we spoke about knowing exactly what your goal post is? Know the goal or have a target that you can't hit a target you can't see? The scenario just brought out that there is really and truly no goal right there to be worked on. There is an individual whom apparently you're challenged with communicating with. It is on that individual to recognize, because if that's the way it is with you, I bet you that individual appears the same way with lots of other people. One of the mistakes we make is try to think we can fix people. We can't fix people. If we recognize we're challenged in communicating with someone else, what we need to do, highlight our challenges and leave the rest to the other side. I will say this other thing. During my presentation, I spoke about incompatibility. It comes back to that as well. Pause to see whether or not the personality types are the same. Pause to see, really, am I the type of person that can get along with this? Is this a type A, type B? I don't want you to get so technical, but pause and to see. You see human action through what they do. So if you're present in the moment, you can discern. You can see these things. Let's not play psychiatrist with those around us, because we often do that. Just try to understand those who's in our circle. Try to understand how they communicate, because oftentimes that's one of the issues. We communicate differently, and that difference can cause conflict. I'll say one more thing. On the same scenario with the orange, I put this to you. If you focus on needs, you will get it right. So the wise mother, using my colleague's term, the wise mother would find out what the needs are. So she would say to Sally, Sally, why do you need the orange so badly? Sally would say, well, my teacher in the culinary class has given me homework to make a lemon pie. So I need the orange to get the rind. Ah, that's Sally's need. Wise mother goes to Joan. Why do you need the orange? Well, Sally had most of the oranges, and so this is only the second one I'm going to have. So I need this one. So Sally needs the juice. Joan needs the juice. Voila, there you have it. I will grate the orange to get the rind off, and after we get the rind, give it to Joan. Joan slit the orange and she gets the juice. There we are. Start with needs. That's what I put into the space regarding the scenario. Start with finding out what the needs are.
Thank you very much. There are two things. One, in that same scenario there, Joan was able to get to the juice easier because the rind was taken off. so in addressing the needs, you make it easier for the other party. But I'd like to come back to the original question that was raised. Because in the workplace and in community, we do have that problem where those in authority are the ones who refuse to take responsibility and then seek to blame others. And so the question I would like to add to what my colleague has said. Can you hear me now? I think my mic has been disconnected. Can you hear me now? Yes, fine, good. In addition to helping, to recognizing that the individual has to take responsibility, we also have to help that individual to recognize how they are seen and how their actions impact others. Because the change will not take place until the consequences of the action is known. And sometimes it is very, very difficult where you're dealing with someone in a position of authority over you. And that is where the whole matter of the language you use and the methodology used to convey the information is very important. It's not something you're going to develop overnight, but it's something that once you're committed to, you become better at it. Just like riding a bicycle, you fall down a couple times before you get the hang of balancing it. And then after that, it becomes part of you. Even 10 years later, you're on a bicycle, you'll be able to ride. And so what we really wanted to highlight here is that if we are truly interested in intervening and minimizing conflict, then we have to commit ourselves to the process. We have to educate ourselves. We have to practice. And the more we practice, the better we become at it. So really, this is just to stimulate, whet your appetite to the whole thing, and to see those who are really interested. And they are not tugging my coattail, but literally, but figuratively. So I will say thank you very much, and I will hand over to the chairman. It has been a pleasure being here, and on behalf of my colleague, we really thank you for the opportunity. Have a great evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. James, but I wasn't touching any tail, I wasn't doing anything. All that I was trying to say to you, we have 2 more questions or a takeaway, and you would have answered the questions and you would have given the takeaway. So on that note, we will end this session. And I just want to thank you very much, gentlemen, for such a wonderful afternoon. I am not the person who is going to do the vote of thanks, but it's really upon me to show my appreciation, and I think everybody who is here this afternoon would have gained a lot. And I am now taking this opportunity to extend another invitation through the chair for you to come back and to help us to digest more. So on behalf of that part of it, I will just call on Miss Sister Rattray, who is the person that is in charge of the care ministry, to give the vote of thanks and also to do a presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Boy, you know, sometimes we think we know, but we really don't know, which is why we have these things to enlighten us and let us know what is wrong, what is, you know, where we're going wrong. And I must say that this seminar was very enlightening, and on behalf of the Ebony Vale Baptist Church, I would like to thank you all for coming in. I know today is a Saturday, so you know most of us are busy on a Saturday, but you took the time out to come and just give us little pointers on this topic that is really an issue right now, not being able to resolve conflicts. I think it's a big issue. As what our chairperson said, we would really like for you to come back because it's a wide topic and there's so much more things that we could discuss about it. So we really invite you to come again. So we'll see what happens in the future. With that being said, we have little tokens to show our appreciation to you guys. So Roxine will come and assist me in handing out these tokens. So Mr. Cristobal, Mr. Wright, could you just stand and accept this on behalf of our church? Round of applause. Smile. Thank you, Roxine. All right, Mr. James, Burchell James, could you stand, please? You want him background, you know, you see. Mr. Kevel Campbell. Okay, and we would also like to thank Miss Adrith Hines for that wonderful prayer. Could you just come up, please? Just a little token. Yes, you miss. Shower the fishy. Yes, you miss. She hold it. Thank you so much once again. And before we close, I just want to big up Madam Chairperson for know how to tell them to listen. Time, wrap up. Two more. She was on the ball, and for that, let us have a round of applause, Ms. Lynch Miller. So with that being said, thank you very much for coming out. To the persons online, thank you so much for joining, and enjoy the rest of your evening. God bless.
Right? Now that we have said it all and we have said thank you, I notice there is two short items. One short one, the benediction, and also we are going to serve a small refreshment. So I'm going to ask the gentlemen at the table to remain, because I'm sure they will be giving you something to eat after such a lovely afternoon, right? So I am just going to call on Deacon Azel Aline to do the benediction for us. And then after, nothing further, we'll just move into the refreshment after. So thank you again, sisters and brothers.
Good afternoon again, everyone. Just want to say thanks to our esteemed gentlemen for coming in and for enlightening our darkness when it comes to conflict resolution. And, you know, we have enjoyed and everything. Now it has come to a close, and I am here to pronounce the benediction. Can we stand, please? The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face to shine upon us and to guide our path as we leave this place now and forevermore. Amen.